listening.
Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting. It is March 3rd, 2026, and it is 6 p.m. Call this meeting to order. The prayer tonight will be with Alderwoman Hobbs and the Pledge of Allegiance with Alderwoman Haas. If everyone would please rise for the prayer and the pledge.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we come to you and we thank you for our city employees who serve our community with their hearts and their hands. Lord, I ask you to give this board the wisdom and the confidence to make good decisions about our community. Lord, I ask you to be with our first responders. May you protect them and their families. And Lord, I ask you to be with Vice Mayor No as he recovers from his back surgery for a quick and easy recovery. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item we have tonight is to approve the minutes from the January 29th, 2026 workshop and February 3rd, 2026 regular meeting. Make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderwoman Haas. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Next, we are going to move on to our presentations. Nashville Electric Service, power outage and response to Winter Storm Fern. Mr. Antonio, if you would please come forward, introduce yourself to the board and the community.
Good evening. My name is Antonio Carroll, and I am part of the government relations team at Nashville Electric Service. We thank you, Mayor Cole and the Aldermen, for your invitation tonight to talk about our response to Winter Storm Fern. And so I have brought our system operations vice president, Kevin Phelps, to talk about our outage response and our plan of action for that storm. And then our chief operations officer, Brent Baker, will come and talk about our 4 pillars initiatives that we've taken after the storm so we can be ready for the next event that comes along and how we can continue to serve this community and all of our customers with having good and reliable service. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin Phelps.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. I wish it was under better circumstances that we were here talking about certain things. First thing I want to start, we were watching the weather the week prior, when they were first calling for close to 30 inches of snow. And we started having our storm prep meetings, like I said, a week before, what we were going to do, how we were going to staff. And so we came up with a plan, and we finalized it the Friday before. We were going to put all of our crews available in, working alternating shifts. That was about 24 of our own crews and 14 out of town. Well, not out, our native what we call our native contractors, so representatives from Mostech and Davis H. Elliott. So we had all these crews in place, and it's important to note that every other storm that we've dealt with in the past, we've been able to handle it with those resources. I've been part of operations and part of NES for nearly 25 years, and that's kind of been our MO. And it became quickly evident as the storm hit that we were going to need extra support. And so we started reaching out to Mostech and Davis Elliott, which we had contracts with, to bring in any available crews that they have, and they continue to send those in. Same with our vegetation crews. We normally have anywhere between 30 and 40 tree trimming crews on our system. We contacted anyone that we had contracts with to get assistance from some of the crews that are somewhat local. A lot of them came from Memphis. So by the end of the storm, we continued to ramp up. We called on for mutual aid from some of our surrounding utilities. We've never done that before. While at least in my tenure at Nashville Electric, we've sent crews to help other utilities, but we've never called on other utilities around us to come help us. This was the first time we did that. We had to overcome some challenges. I mean, we had, by the end of the storm, close to 1,900 line workers, I believe that number's right, Brent, and 350 vegetation workers on our system. All of our crews have vehicle locators. We can see where they're at. Number one is safety. Whenever we're trying to energize lines, we want to know where our crews are. And so we had to overcome some challenges with that. we've never had to scale up to this volume before. So with that, once we saw the outages rise, we had over 230,000 without power. I believe the most we've ever had prior to that was 150,000. So this was much larger. By the end of the event, this storm affected over 320,000 of our 462,000 customers. So, like I said, it was like nothing we've ever seen. Some other challenges we met, I know y'all didn't have the roadway blockages that we dealt with in other communities, but getting crews to those locations with the tree trimmers, with the lines down, some people don't realize to be able to go in and do that, you have to make sure that line is de-energized by grounding it. So even NDOT, TDOT crews, National Guard, they couldn't even really help us until our crews went out there and put the ground chains on, because no one wants to touch it to make that risk. And one of the things that we were very fortunate and very thankful for is, no one, while we did have some slip, trips, and falls due to it, obviously because of the ice, we didn't have anyone come in contact with any energized lines, none of our crews. All of those returned safe. And that, to me, was one of the biggest challenges that we overcame, because whenever emergencies like this happen, mistakes happen. And that was one of the things we wanted to avoid, which is one of the reasons why we scaled up the way we did. We didn't want to bring everybody in at once. We wanted to try to scale up. And we were watching, like I said, the outages and the number of customers drop. Okay, we're going to need more crews. We're going to need more crews. We're going to need more crews. So, like I said, it was like nothing I've ever dealt with before. And I don't know if y'all have ever seen any ice storms like this. I remember the one in '94. I was a senior in high school. I grew up here in Nashville. Well, not in Laverne, but I grew up in Nashville. But I was a senior in high school then, and I remember different pieces and parts of that, but nothing like this. So some of the stats from that, here in Laverne, we have just over 11,000 customers. Customers out here in Laverne was around 2,748, 758 trouble calls. We have 51 wire down problems and one broken pole of our 787 that we had on our system. There were other poles that were damaged that we were able to repair. If we counted those, it would be over 900 poles. I'm trying to think some of the other important information. One interesting fact, with all the crews that we brought in, if you lined them up bumper to bumper, they would have stretched for almost 10 miles. We had to think about that during our de-staging and how we were going to handle that and how to roll all those crews out, which we had to come up with a plan for that as well. Brent, do you have anything? I'm trying to think of something else. I'm never really I'm not much on speaking in front of a microphone, so this is one of the first times for me. So I apologize for my nervousness and speaking fast. So I'll hand it over to Brent.
So Kevin runs our operations, and you can see has a lot of details on what has happened on our operations. Really also want to focus on what we're doing since then. We have some reports that are going to be done both from the city of Nashville and internally. Our board is doing an after-action review. Those are running the course of somewhere from 90 days to 6 months to a year. We did not want to wait for that time to take place for us to make a change to anything that might need to be done. So we have started a push from Teresa, our CEO, that is the 4 pillars effort, is to have NES dive into 4 different areas that were a concern through this event. And just at a high level, the first one is emergency management leadership, making sure we have the responsiveness to the local OEMs and some of the different communications at the state level that need to be improved. The second was communications, which we know was one of the bigger issues through this storm, providing outage information that would come from the field to the main office out to the community and make sure that flows better and that we do that more regularly. That's a key part. Within that is also our outage map. It provides information, but in the storm we saw, with this size and scale of an event, it did not provide like we would have thought it would. The third that we have as a pillar is addressing estimated restoration time practices. So one of the things we have been, as an organization, working on is getting more estimated restore times for events that we have throughout the normal course of a year In this event, it proved to be a challenge for us to really get good information out about how long restoration might take. So we're putting some practices in place. I'll go into detail on each one of these in just a minute. And then the last one is assessing resiliency, exploring undergrounding, and increased vegetation management. So that's another pillar where we're assigning workforce teams to really dive into this, and that's our core focus right now. Those different groups of teams are working on actions right now. So every day we're getting a report on improvements that are being made. So first one on emergency management. We are moving to the Incident Command System Framework, the ICS framework, and NIMS. Currently, we had an emergency response plan, and as Kevin mentioned, we've always been able to handle things well, even in some really large events. And our emergency response plan has some NIMS-type framework in it, but it had its shortcomings in this event. And us being able to reach out to the folks I see over here at every one of our communities, you all do things from an emergency management perspective in a way that us developing an ICS framework will make it way more easy to have the same language and to make sure we're spinning up the right resources more quickly. Also, it'll help us mobilize more quickly within our internal resources. Some of the things we need to do in a storm like this is to be able to have people stand up a logistics arm, make sure we're getting food and getting rooms and all the different things that we, through this event, had to do at a bigger scale than we'd ever done. So we need to be able to scale. That's part of it as well. One of the things you may have heard through the storm is onboarding crews that can safely work on our system. Linemen from across the country can work on any system, but every system has its own unique challenges, so we have to make sure people can work safely. This framework will help us do that. We did a lot of things through this storm that we need to make sure we solidify and carry forward. So that is something that we are making sure that what we learned in the event, that we don't lose, and so we keep that moving forward. Engineering assessments. That will help us get estimated restore times. That's part of that first pillar and some of the work we're going to do and make sure we get those assessments more quickly. And then I think across our community, we heard a lot about customers who have critical referrals. So some health need that is, they needed our attention more quickly, or we need to be able to find out from an OEM perspective who can help get resources to those folks and make sure nobody is left alone for too long. We know where those customers are, and when they have an outage, we have a system to be able to communicate that, but we're going to improve even more. We have added an online submission. Before it was a little bit cumbersome. We've made it an online submission, so we're seeing the number of critical referral customers grow. And so we are planning to continue to enhance that, and the website improvement has helped us get more customers into that critical referral program. The next thing, communications and communication technologies. We did see 11 million views and reports to our outage map. So that was higher than anything we had ever seen before, and so that did test the limits of that outage map. We had 83,000 calls into our call center and over 300,000 calls to our outage line, and 2.3 million outage texts through the event. And all of these technologies had moments of overwhelm and limits to what they could do. As we have gone through these last couple of days, we have already begun expanding those systems, and one of those systems from the call volume of the overflow calls and texts, we still have another week and a half to have that completed for the ability to scale to the level we had, because it was a bit of a system change, but we're making that change immediately. We are also soon deploying an NES mobile app so that people could see the map and other information on their phone and not have to go through the steps of going to the website or finding it. Have the app so you're more readily able to find the information. And then we are also looking for a public information officer to make sure, one, Antonio and all of us have more information that we can give out, and that person has more ready access to getting information out. Estimated times of restoration. This is a bit of a puzzle in the utility industry to do this well, and something we've been working on for a little while. We're putting the accelerator on this effort to make sure we are getting those estimates out more quickly. And so in an event like we just had, we have now put in place a contract with a company that can get a visual flight of the system and more quickly, day one, within 24 hours, give us information about what they're really seeing and provide a live stream into our control room so that we can more quickly understand what's happening. And so that would have been a help. A lot of our roads were impassable to get to all of the damage, so every day we were getting more information. A flight in that first 24 hours would have helped us. We're learning from our hurricane partners in the different parts of the industry that have hurricanes regularly, and that's some of the resources we're leaning into. And then from the events that we've had in the past, we have 380 storm events that we have in our system of record that we are now analyzing and going through. What would estimated restore times have been in those events? How can we correlate that to any event that might happen so that we can more quickly say, this is normally a 7-day event, a 9-day event, or a 4-day event? And then lastly, I mentioned resiliency. That same group that will be able to fly our territory and provide a more visible view of the damage more quickly, that same resource will be available for us. We're flying right now to get an idea of just how many trees are possibly still encroaching. Also, any of our lines that might need to be upgraded, different things that might need to be done. When we get the information back, we know that we'll have an increased need for more vegetation, more tree trimming. And so we're increasing that clearance to 15 feet away from our lines. And we're going to be doing that as we go back through the system after the storm. We're doing that, and we'll continue that as our practice going forward. And we will meet 100% of our tree trimming goal by the end of June of 2026. We're going to keep those additional resources on to make sure we get through our cycle and get ahead of the schedule a bit more. And then we are doing a 10-year reliability study, which we had started this year to put a more comprehensive look at reliability as a whole. We will complete that study soon and have it ready for all of the after-action reviews. So we have in it what we believe are the studies to get us to a top decile performance in 10 years. We're aiming at top quartile normally, but in the industry to get to top decile with the very top of the top performers. We have put some steps in place to be able to do that in our 10-year plan, and we'll continue to review that this year and see what else might need to be done. The last thing on that is that strategic undergrounding effort, making sure we are considering underground. And we will do a larger study as well to figure out what needs to be done to make underground a reality for where it would be most beneficial for all of our customers. We are going to take some pilot studies of our territory and find some other possible neighborhoods to be able to do that in ahead of the study. So a lot of the things we talk about studying, we know that can sound like a long time before anything happens. We are not going to wait for all of the studies to come back before we make some action. A pilot could possibly help us learn from that of what customers believe about an action like we might take and see what neighborhoods could really benefit from it. So that is a little bit of an overview of all of the 4 pillars work. That is our commitment to make sure we aren't waiting for some other result to come out. And so that's where we're at as we speak right now. And I do know that there's a couple other things at every one of these meetings we go to that we don't have in our 4 pillars. So I think what other things we could possibly do in the immediate term and in the long term, we'd be open to hearing in any conversation we need to have.
Okay. Board, do you have any questions for any of our NES reps that are here?
Yes. According to public records, there was evidence that your administration urged to prioritize restoration to more affluent communities, such as Brentwood. If anything, I would be led to believe that these affluent communities have widespread resources, such as home generators and affordability to alternative accommodations, such as hotel room. Vergne has a poverty rate averaging about 11%, whereas Brentwood's is no more than 3.5%. What considerations do you make when prioritizing restoration of services? Is this considered? And how do you avoid these disparities in service?
Yeah, great question. So every storm's a little bit different, and so when we have a storm, we evaluate where the most damage is and where we can get the most customers on. So when we're looking at a storm restoration, we are looking at how do we get the most on. That first night of the storm, we got 60,000 customers on through focusing on those largest amounts. And as you see the storm went on, we got fewer and fewer customers on every day because the level of effort to get customers on changes as you're getting further into the storm. So priority is based on number of customers to be restored, and we have 3 different districts, so we are spread out on our system to be able to restore all over. So there's no consideration for demographics or any other consideration as we do this. We are looking at how do we get the most customers on the most effectively, because for us that is also the thing. We have to get those main feeds on, and when we're restoring main feeder lines, that helps us get other neighborhoods on. So you've got to get the main feeds on before you can get to any other neighborhood.
Do you think those considerations should be made?
Which considerations?
About prioritizing communities with higher poverty levels.
Yeah, so I think it's important that you make sure you restore as many people as possible. I think what we will be doing in the future is bringing more and more resources on more quickly to make sure. So this time as we're evaluating each day, even some of the damage that was happening every day started to show more and more need for increased number of crews. So I think the focus will be to restore more quickly.
So if we're working off the average that Vergne households are 2.5 per household with the 11,730 customers. We're looking at roughly just under 30,000 of our 42,000 residents without power during that winter storm. So roughly 70%. That's a very big number for our residents. Kevin mentioned at one point that there were 900 poles that were damaged. Is that here in Laverne, or is that system-wide? Because I know the report shows one.
And you may talk about the number of outages as well, but
Sure.
I don't know if that.
Sure. So there were actually 2 damaged poles in Laverne. One had to be replaced. There was another that was repaired out of the nearly 900.
Okay.
So when you were talking about, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir. You go ahead.
No, 900 was this whole system then?
Yeah, on our entire NES system. That's correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned that y'all were scaling up
Yes,
for
sir.
restoration. How did that impact delays on getting service reconnected?
Okay, so the way the storm works, it's almost like 2 storms in one. So at the beginning, everything is focused on the main feeder lines. So if we had transmission lines, which we did have 4 transmission lines at the beginning that we lost, but those came back quickly. So it's transmission, then substation, then main circuit lines, and then we start looking for sidelines and our lesser 4 kV circuits and things of that nature. So bringing those in at the front end helped us get to, well, yes, we were still evaluating through that time, and that's one of the things Brent talked about with the LiDAR. That will help us get an evaluation of our system a little bit faster. So we were still finding stuff 2-3 days after. Is that fair? Yep. So getting LiDAR in, finding ways to assess the damage faster will help us restore faster. Another thing that we did was some of those same crews. We had never used contract crews for like individual outage calls, service calls, and things of that nature. We did that with this storm. So that was another one of our lessons learned. We wanted to run a pilot of this. We'd talked about that leading up. We wanted to try it on a blue sky day first, but conditions didn't allow for that. And so we did it here. And so we had engineering crews, and that goes into the visibility of the crews working out on the field. The outside contractors, we can't see them. We can't digitally assign them calls. And so we would have some of our other people from our company, either in our metering department or our engineering department, ride with those or ride out in front in a smaller vehicle, and that way they could get to those faster. So at the beginning of the storm, we're looking at the large outages. We're not looking at the smaller ones, typically. Now, after a week into the storm, we did start trying to proverbially eat the elephant from both ends. As we got some of the lines back, we weren't going to release any of those crews. We didn't release any of those crews until everyone was back on. And so we started transitioning those crews over to our service calls.
Okay. And
Which ones were that, Brent? I'm sorry.
I just want to recap. I think it was that number for the Rutherford.
Yes. So, yeah, Rutherford County experienced 2,748 experienced an outage at some point during the storm's duration of the 11,730.
Okay.
Now,
I did the math wrong.
that wasn't
Yeah.
that wasn't all at one time. Some of that came in later, either through the restoration. So sometimes we have to drop customers out to pick others back up, to do that safely, to make up lines, to do things like that. And so that's why our storm peak doesn't match our storm total, right? So at peak we had 231,749 out, but over the course of the storm it was around 320,000 customers, and it's because it's kind of like an ebb and flow.
okay. And you mentioned that the Friday before the storm hit, y'all were still preparing for snow.
We, at that point, there was still calls for ice, not the level of accumulation that we received. Now, I'd have to go back and look at my weather briefings to verify that. I know they were calling for less and less snow and a little bit more ice. At the beginning, I believe on Friday, and once again, I'd have to consult and look at my weather briefings. They were looking at a little bit of ice, up to a quarter inch in our lower, I'd say, the southwest corner of our system. And then as Friday and as Saturday hit, it started moving up. And still we were looking at between a quarter and a half an inch of ice. Our lines and our poles are designed to handle that. The trees are not.
Well, I know with our team, we were monitoring, and originally we were planning for 29 inches. I know Michael Dietz and I were laughing about 29 inches of snow.
Sure.
But we were following back on the 21st, earlier in that week, where the storm had shifted 200 miles north, roughly, and we were expecting ice. So we shifted our crews in that direction to be able to address that, which is why our roads were so clear. And that's a concerning moment if y'all were still prepping for a snowstorm when the forecasts were already calling for an ice storm to come in.
Sure, I understand.
And I'm right there with you as far as going through ice storms. I was here for 94. I was here for 09. I'm a Nashville native.
Yes, sir.
So I'm considered the unicorn. But it's following that and planning, making those changes. NES, just like any other group, just like our utilities, have to make those changes, and they have to be able to make those quick, because just as we saw throughout all of Middle Tennessee, that's people's lives.
Yes, sir. So that's another thing. We were watching that, and we were necessarily planning for 30 inches of snow. I don't know that I was laughing kind of at the same forecast that you were, because I've never seen that in my life here. By Wednesday or Thursday of that week, when our T&D vice president started calling our crews, they had already been pledged to other areas. Another thing we did as the storm was moving in, there's a website, poweroutage.us. I don't know if y'all have ever looked at it or not. It is a very valuable resource. We were watching the storm move and watching the impacts of the systems to our southwest as it came up. And so that was another thing that we were doing to help plan. Once again, some of those, I think around Oxford, Mississippi, they got hit. But I don't know that any of those got hit the same way we did. And so
I'm going to speak to that just a little bit about the crews. So as we were going through the week, we were reaching out, and a lot of our peers in the utility industry got on calls. And on Thursday, we had a call with a lot of the larger utilities around TVA, and we were all talking about what resources we all had available. And at that point, everybody was keeping what they had. And so that, from Texas to the East Coast, everybody was holding on to the crews they had. And so we knew the ones that we had on system from the two contractors that worked for us, that we were keeping ours on system, but we also knew across the whole valley, if ours weren't needed, so that if the ice didn't hit here, we would quickly release. And so we had 135 additional line workers from those contracts that could come on Sunday. And so while they were being held, just like we all do when we know a storm's coming our way, we hold on to what we have. We knew we would respond to help others if they needed them, and they would do the same for us. So that's a little bit of how that happens now. In the future, we now have far exceeding storm contracts than what we had before, more and more contractors than ever before. In an event like this, some of those still might be held, and so making sure that when you have some of those resources that are regional and available, to make sure you can be able to call on them will be something that we will exercise even more in the future. But definitely in an event like this, widespread damage that was predicted, a lot of people were also still holding on to some of those contractors.
Now, one thing you mentioned earlier was you are looking at hurricanes as far as case studies on hurricanes.
Right.
Would it be more beneficial, though, to look further north at traditional ice storms that affect New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Michigan, to make plans based off of that versus what we traditionally see from hurricanes? Yeah,
so we're doing some of that as well, and there's an Eversource had a pretty big event in the last couple of weeks because of the blizzard. Now, one of the things that's different about the north is that a lot of times they get more snow and high winds that are the blizzard-like winds that cause the damage, and so we're going to look at all of it for sure. I think the unique thing in our band of weather is that ice is more prevalent than other parts of the country. So as you go further north, it's snow and blizzard-like conditions. Further south, it's hurricanes. We happen to be in the band that in those longer periods in between, but the ice storm risk is still there. So we'll look at all of those for sure. And the other thing for us is that to not lose sight of this experience and to make sure that we exercise it. Kind of part of the ICS framework will be more exercises even on a storm like this that doesn't happen every year. Spring storms are what we're more used to, but we'll be looking all around for all of the type of events for sure.
Now, one of the concerns from our community here in Laverne is it's a running joke that if you sneeze too hard, that you will take out the electrical grid in Lake Forest. It is a common occurrence, whether it's a spring storm, a fall storm, a winter storm, that the power goes out. And that is a very big concern to our community. And it's a combination of things, such as even with the winter storm, it wasn't just vegetation. It wasn't just limbs coming down. We saw transformers and blowing and fuses going out on them, which how does NES tend to start prioritizing that? Because our residents feel like it's forgotten aging infrastructure, and they want to ensure, because they don't have a choice in where they're using, unless they just move. So what is being done to sell that so that those people don't lose power on a regular basis like they're currently experiencing?
Yeah, so customers absolutely expect more reliable power, and something that we were doing prior to the storm was that 10-year plan to get even more reliability, and maybe talking too much in the weeds on our industry, but we measure ourselves in quartiles, and getting to top quartile used to be the standard. If you could be in that top group of utilities, that was a good place to be. We realized we need to be top decile. So we went for the same reason you're talking about, is there are some outliers in our community that we want to make sure that if we get to top quartile, are we really done enough? And so if we aim at top decile, we know that we'll find some of these areas that we will even make better improvements on than what we are currently doing on our current plan. So that 10-year plan that we were putting together prior to the storm was so that we could even find these areas that you're talking about that might be falling behind what we consider top quartile. They may be falling behind, to make sure we get that. In that, we also have a plan to look at every one of our circuits and start to figure out where some the most frequent reliability issues are, and address those, and have a plan to address those. We had that prior to the storm, but we have a distribution reliability improvement plan that was underway. When a circuit would fall below a reliability standard, we would go and investigate. The one, and you heard the neighborhood, I don't know, I didn't take note of it. We need to do a power quality look at that. So that's something that we do now when we see it fall into some of our reports. Sometimes it also takes conversations like this, or with some of our customers who call in, and make sure we have a better tracking. Another benefit of the 4 pillars, in one of the conversations we were having today, one of our meter folks spoke up and said there's another way that we can parse some of the data and find some of these things more frequently or more quickly. And so I think, one, we will be enhancing ourselves, all of it. We'll make an enhanced move toward reliability every day, but this is one we can specifically look at. And as time goes, we can figure out where those pockets of poor performance are and make sure we're not letting people fall behind.
Well, and another big part of all of this is communication.
That's right.
I've been mayor. This is my 8th year.
Yeah.
This is the first conversation face-to-face with NES employees, staff, attorneys, the CEO. In my 8 years, I've 2 years before that, I sat on the board as an alderman. Yeah. Never spoke to NES. NES has to integrate itself to have a solid ongoing communication strategy with elected officials, both city, county, state, because we already do this. A lot of this we do. GNRC, local mayors talk on a regular basis. But NES doesn't talk with us. There's just there's a feeling that whenever there is a weather event, we're talked at as to what's going on, but there's not an ongoing conversation as to what's going on. A good example for this is the work our public works crew did. They cleared the roads. They communicate that with our police and our fire department so that they know what to expect on the roads. Well, if your teams knew what to expect on the roads, instead of waiting for a road to be freed up to be able to go into that has trees down on it, crews could be in the community that already has no trees on the road.
Right.
So that's a big advantage of having communication, is working together, because we all service the residents here, and they see a big difference. We have essentially I-24 is about the dividing point for where Middle Tennessee Electric and NES services are. To my knowledge, Middle Tennessee Electric for Laverne residents saw no outages. That's big for our residents. We saw tree limbs coming down. Yes, it even caused one road to shut down, but it took no lines out with it. Whereas over here, we had 2,748 customers, which, if it's 2.5 per household, that's a lot of people sitting in the dark.
Yep.
And this is a vulnerable community, and we want them to be able to have the services, especially in this type of weather event.
Yeah, I think where you started with the relationship and communication, one, we've got to be in meetings like this more frequently so that we all know each other and know how to have the conversation. I look over here, the conversation that our people need to be having on a regular basis with the OEMs of all the territories that we have. That's the place where a lot of work gets done on the day-to-day. And so even in an event that might be considered something that was smaller before that we might have handled, I think the commitment is we're standing up more and more resources to make sure we all know how to get a hold of each other more quickly, because I think that's also one of the impediments at times is since we didn't build enough relationship ahead of time, there may not be people on your end that know exactly who to reach out to. And maybe the one person that you all knew through some message we'd given or a conversation you had with Antonio. Antonio does a great job, but he also covers our whole territory. You all need the people on our side that actually understand just what you're going through, and from an OEM perspective, that's really key, and that's part of our ICS structure is to make sure we have more and more of that.
Yes, and we commit to doing a better job of communicating on Blue Sky Days, coming out to meetings like this to be able to share the progress on the work. We talked about these 4 pillars, and it doesn't make sense for us to tell you about the 4 pillars and us never come back and tell you what progress we've made and how we've developed on those things. And so our commitment tonight is to be able to follow back up with all of you and share the update and progress as we make these changes after this winter storm.
Kevin, I got another question for you, and this is actually I'm very big on community engagement. So I reached out last night to our community here in Laverne and asked them what questions they are looking to get answers from, and it's all over the place. But one particular one is, can we get an explanation why tree trimming around power lines has not been consistently maintained, and whether that's contributing to our frequent and sometimes random power outages? Are the power outages related to aging transformers or other infrastructure issues?
Okay, so I'll start answering those. If I leave something out, please remind me. So we'll start with the aging transformers and infrastructure. We've got, I believe, if I had to guess, I'll have to look it up whenever I get back to my office, but like the Lake Forest community, I'm pretty sure served out of our Hurricane Creek substation, which is just right down the road. We have relatively new equipment inside there. We have breakers with that no longer have electromechanical relays in them. They're more upgraded microprocessor relays. One of the things that we do is putting more and more sectionalizing line devices out. I don't know which ones are necessarily in this area, but that's something we'll look into with that power study. You talked about the tree trimming, and I would say if you went across the other side of I-24 and looked at their tree trimming versus the way we do it, quite a bit different. I'm not going to get into all the details on that. I haven't been privy to a lot of the whys and hows. However, that's one of the things that we've seen is we need a tree trimming policy that looks very similar to our neighbors to the south. And so that's the direction we're going. With the 15 feet ground to sky, I believe is the terms that I'm hearing. So in the past, we've allowed canopy over the lines. A lot of people like their trees. I like trees, but trees and power lines don't mix. And so we've got to make that call. And so that's what we're doing moving forwards.
Okay.
Has there been any considerations for undergrounding some of the line in Laverne at all?
So that's one of the things Brent was talking about with our undergrounding, and he might could speak a little bit more of that. But yeah, it's we're going to do a system-wide study, but we're also looking at several other areas that we're making improvements on to see what makes sense, how we can do it. I know one of the big reasons everyone gives for undergrounding in this area or not doing it. It's just because of the amount of rock that we have, and getting through that is problematic. I know I live in Rutherford County now myself, so I know there's just one rock, and it just goes from one side of the county to the other. And so I understand that. But that's something we're really wanting to look at. We're really wanting to improve those things. And when we're looking at Lake Forest and some of the other communities out this way, we'll see if that's something that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got 2 questions.
Okay.
Sorry I had to step out.
That's okay.
One of them was you had mentioned you're upgrading the way that you identify if it's a transformer or if it's a main line or something. I know you had your process of you start the big, then you go do it all the way
Yes, ma'am.
down. But like here in Laverne, I know I've got a couple of friends that it was just a transformer.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys came out, they were without power for 5 to 7 days, and they came out, and in 10 minutes, and a whoop, and then they were back on. I know that there was, like Mayor Cole had said, in Nashville, there were roads that were blocked. Our roads were cleared, thanks to our public works guys. Could you have shifted one of the crew's focuses down here, because we were ready? Our roads were ready for the trucks to come in and get our power up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is that part of your pillars and your plans to, like Mayor Cole said, communicate with your outer communities
Yes.
that rely on you also, and it's not just Nashville?
Sure.
I know that's a lot in there.
There was, and if I didn't keep up,
Okay.
please correct me. So that's one of like I said, that's one of the things that we changed in this storm. Now it was several days in, but we were starting to, like I said, eat the elephant from both ends. We didn't take all 1,900 and throw them at the few remaining circuits that we had out. We pulled them out because they've been stepping all over each other, and we started addressing the smaller outages with those. Like I said, we hadn't done that before. We can't keep doing it that way. We realize we can do it that way now. We can attack it from both sides, and that's something we want to do moving forwards. Once again, I talked about we hadn't brought in, we never had to bring in additional crews to help us with our restoration process. That's going to change too. So we'll be a lot more open to that and looking for those types of situations. Okay, look, looks like we got some stuff moving in. Let's get some more crews in. Where maybe in the past we knocked this out in 5 days, let's see if we can do it in 3 by bringing in those additional crews, because we've overcame those challenges through this storm in terrible situations. So now we can plan for that and know what we're going into before and know how we overcame them in the past. We can make us better in the future.
Okay, and the way the tree trimming is done, I have on my street, I have a tree, and it is like this.
Mm-hmm.
So if an ice storm comes, that tree will collapse in. I mean, I know that you all have your specifications and stuff like that, and it's not just on my street. There are a lot of streets that have the trees with just the U. Why don't you just lop them? I mean, that way you don't have any, threat of a tree caving in or whatever. I know you have your specifications and stuff, but I mean, looking at a big U,
Yeah.
and then so
So I'm going to speak to that. So one of the things that we'll work with all of our community on, it's going to be a community-wide conversation, every one of the areas we serve. And so some of that might have been better for removal as well. Like some of those trees, just as we get through, one of the hard things for our crews is we've left a lot of trees in the right-of-way that make it difficult for them to make good progress as well. When you get to other areas where those trees might have been removed, you can more quickly get down the right-of-way and get restoration done as well. But if it's a tree that is okay to leave close to, and there's a reason why we might have something like that left, I think there's some methods that we can definitely apply from a reliability perspective. But one thing that we'll all have to work together on is that some of our customers will also ask the question of, well, I really like that tree. But if we do it properly to make sure it does not cause any reliability issue, it is one that oftentimes does not leave people with the most appealing appearance of that. And so that's something we're going to have to work on and make sure that we all are about reliability first and make sure we do the right decisions when it comes to the right-of-way. So that's what we're
And
committed to.
another thing that was brought up during all of this was the outlying communities do not have representation on the NES board. Are y'all looking at that to get, representatives from Laverne, Hendersonville, Sumner County, Cheatham County on the board so that we would have a voice also and would help with the communication process?
Yeah, so there's several conversations going on that front, and I think, from our perspective as leadership, we're open to all the conversations. We're definitely looking for the constructive way to make sure we have representation. So there's ways that's being done, and I don't know that from our position that's where that necessarily comes from initially. So I think as we all work through this process, we'll see some results in the next, few months and figure out where that needs to land to make sure we get good representation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
You said the timeline for that representation would be in a few months, or
Well,
what's the expected timeline with that?
So once again, that's driven from other areas, and so we are open to all the conversations on that. And so from a decision or direction on that, I think that in the next few months, we'll see different ideas. There's a lot of ideas that are coming up on how to make that make sense. And so I can't speak to the way that will actually happen, but I know we definitely want to be a part of conversations and have representation and having the conversations.
Nothing further. Thank you for
Okay.
coming out.
Yeah.
Though, and address- Thank you.
Well, and yeah, go ahead.
So when it comes to you've got the four pillars with your presentation, but I would definitely urge that you bring in 5 principles with that, which is preparedness, transparency, equity and restoration, ratepayer protection, because our residents are seeing left and right massive bills from this storm, and they're attributing it not to usage, but to having to bring in all the extra resources to get power restored, and then future resilience so that these types of incidents don't happen to this impact again.
Right.
Additionally, myself, Representative Stevens, and Representative Mike Sparks had sent a letter to NES roughly 3 to 4 weeks ago, and it was urging NES to work with Rutherford County and the cities to either have NES work with Middle Tennessee Electric on a feasibility study about shifting over those customers to MTE, or have a representative on the governing body. Now, I know the governing body part is not y'all's decision. That's more of a Nashville charter, and we're working both with the state and the city of Nashville on those.
That's right.
But will NES commit to supporting those types of efforts?
Yeah, so that's what I'm being really mindful about, how all of the different moving parts are on that. That's really not from an executive level position where we're to have a lot of influence on that. I think from if we have the right move from the conversations you're talking about happening, we are open to the conversation. I think at a minimum, making sure we're out more and more. But wherever those directions come from at the different levels you mentioned, we'll be a part of all those conversations. And absolutely, we want to hear from all of our customers. We want to be a part of those discussions and figure out how to get more service in the right ways as we have these events.
No, I personally think it would help with both to the Nashville Council, to the mayor of Nashville, as well as to the state representatives to know y'all's stance on that. That's why I asked.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the last question I ask is related to the recent. It's been in the news about the recent lobbyist hirings, and so what is the goal to accomplish with that? Is there any specific goals as related to response or actions related to Winter Storm Fern?
So the resources that were brought in were from a communications perspective. Early on, we were having the communications issues early on of figuring out how we get more and more out. So we brought in some advisors on that. The board has hired as well some firms to help them through the process. And so both of those are different angles, and from what the board has versus what the executive team and the management team brought in. Ours was more on the communications front and making sure we could get ahead of all that was happening early on in this event.
Okay. Anything else?
And I would be remiss if we didn't mention, you talked about folks with the high bills. NES has made a donation to a Neat Link for those who need bill assistance. So you can go to the Neat Link website to be able to get assistance if you need that for your bill, for customers who need that with their bills. We also have on our website the NES Cares page, which shares some other good resources for the folks who need assistance post-Winter Storm Fern. And so we do thank you all for inviting us, and we look forward to coming back to visit with you all again to give you updates on what we've done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to departmental reports. Police Department, Chief Mays.
Mayor, Alderwoman Hobbs, how are you tonight?
Good. Hello.
Good. You have the report before you. We have a lot of good numbers to report. I will bring your attention to robberies being up 100%. The percentage is a little misleading in that we went from 0 to 1. Assaults, including domestic assaults, that is very, very difficult for any patrol strategies to impact. And when it came to theft, they're up slightly, 5.9%. Shoplifting is down significantly, and I believe that is attributed to the holidays being over. So we're moving out of that season. Overdoses are down 66%. I'd like to say that our narcotics enforcement efforts have impacted that, but I'm not, convinced of that. So, and homicides remain flat. So calls for service are down. That's a good thing. We went down nearly 700 calls for service. Arrests are down very slightly, despite having such a large drop in the calls for service. DUI arrests are down. Honestly, I think this is because of one of our third shift officers who was injured in the line of duty, has been out for quite some time, and she was one of our higher performing DUI officers. But the good thing is her prognosis is very positive, and we're hoping that she returns back to us this summer. So drug-related arrests are up 28.6%. I believe that's because of the changes we made to personnel within the narcotics unit and some of the outstanding cases that they've built and arrests that they've made. And recovered stolen vehicles are down 66%. This is not, you go to the next slide, you'll see that our traffic stops are up 45%. And I believe that's because we have empowered our officers to go out there and do the job that needs to be done. I saw a social media post this past week where people were saying, don't mess around in Laverne. That is not the place to be. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So I believe our stolen car recoveries are down because people know that we are out there. We are encouraging our officers to be engaged in proactive policing, and we're empowering them to do the job that needs to be done. So I'm very pleased with this report. I'm pleased with the efforts of the officers that are out there doing the work day in and day out, and the credit all goes to them. With that, do you have any questions?
I just want to say great job on the town hall
Oh, thank
last
you.
week. It was very informative, and thank you for the time.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah, and we're looking forward to the next one in June. So, anything else?
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Moving on to the fire department, our second responder, Chief Beasley.
Well done, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Board. I hope that you've had an opportunity to review our report for the month of February. You can see a couple extra structure fires. I think we know where those were related to. We did have some significant incidents or loss in some homes, and fortunately they were detached dwellings, so it didn't have a considerable amount to their livelihood or their safety. Very proud of the work that we did during that time period. A lot of runs up and down the road. We had no vehicular accidents resulting from the snow, which is a great day. So I think the rest of the numbers are within order. Mr. Richardson and myself had a conversation yesterday, and I'd like to call out something that I do routinely say, and I want to make sure that we clarify this. You see the red numbers there for the response times. Those are still not visible because of the CAD system. We typically report on the first fire company arriving on the fire scene. 82% of our call volume is made up in EMS reports or EMS responses, so we list that one at the top. And it stays the same for fire calls. But I also want to call out when a couple years ago we improved our ISO report, and we actually had to go back about 24 months or more, just to give them good data, because what they look at is actual fires, structure fires, in their reporting. And the number that we look at is we try to respond in within 12 minutes. Everybody that is coming that's on the shift, that does not include the fire administration personnel. So the people that are living in fire stations daily, their response time needs to be all companies arriving on the scene within 12 minutes. At the time of our ISI report, I was really pleased. And the reason we gave them so much data is because I said, I know you're going to not believe that we're making this 100% of the time. We were at that time. Mr. Richardson has asked me to carve that out in future reports when we get our CAD system. So we're full transparency. You have two different response times. First engine company or first response company that hits the scene, and then once we all arrive on the scene to fill out the complement. The one thing that we've done this past year is add that truck company with an additional 3 to 4 personnel on every structure fire, and that reduces property loss, increases safety to civilians, and increases safety to our firefighters. So that adds into those numbers as we go forward in our next review from ISO or Insurance Service Office. And I do not know when that's going to be, so I know that's the next question. They're significantly behind. They've still not caught up from COVID.
Okay, and you've got a new employee?
Yes, we do. We have a new life safety officer. We transitioned one gentleman back into fire suppression role, and we've brought on a new employee that she is extremely excited about the context of her job. We'll be working with the police departments, community outreach. They should be engaging this week or next week, hopefully. There's a lot of promise in this role. Our goal right now is to be more than just the in case of glass break emergency group. And I think we've shown that information there in the past. I think we can improve upon that. You'll see us more so hopefully in the churches and the schools. We offer emergency evacuation plans to our commercial occupancies or the churches. So we teach what happens, fires or active threats, whatever that type of emergency is, similar that we have here at City Hall or at the Public Works Building, where you have rally locations and those type of incidents. So it's a critical role that I believe that we're going to build upon, and it's going to strengthen over the next couple of years.
And then, Chief, can you speak to the recent fire over at the co-op? I know that was a big deal.
Well, it is. It's extremely manpower intensive just because it's not a great deal of fire. It is an extremely dangerous situation because of dust that's created in that environment. So you have potential smoke explosion. And then that building fires in the basement, and we found embers and stuff onto the 4th floor through those vent works and channels where they turn that product over. So it's just a lot of manpower. The volume of fire was not as large as it appears in a place like that, but it is tremendous work, and our guys did a great job because they know the building. They've been there. We have those pre-fire plans that we work on annually. We have great relationships with the safety personnel and the plant manager, so that's a huge piece of that as well.
Wonderful. Any other questions?
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the HR department. Andrew Patton.
Mayor, Board, good evening. Thank you very much. It's abnormal I know, I can see the look on your face like, what is happening?
That wasn't on our list.
I just wanted an opportunity to let you know that we had done a national search for an open role that we had in our department, our senior HR specialist, and I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to introduce her and ask her to come say a few words. This is Adrienne Liggins. Adrienne, would you join me up here? Adrienne joined us yesterday as her day one and brings lots and lots of experience to our team and our employees. And I'm very excited not only to have her on our team, but to have her supporting all of our employees within the city. So I wanted to give the opportunity for you as a department that supports everyone, including yourselves. I wanted to give you an opportunity to meet her.
Good afternoon. It's not afternoon, it's
It's
evening
evening
now.
now.
It's been a
Yes,
long
long
day,
day.
right? Thank you guys for having me so much. I'm so happy to be here. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to attend one of these meetings. You know how you see them on TV and you think, I wonder what that would be like in person. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the warm welcome. Thank you.
You've got our mission statement down, right?
I do, yeah. Thank you.
Now moving on to Parks and Recreation, Mr. David McGowan.
Mayor Board, you have the numbers, parks numbers for the month. 87 help desk tickets, 619 man-hours devoted to those. Past events, February 7th was our Belle of the Ball, our annual father-daughter dance. Upcoming events, March 28th, Easter drive-through at Veterans Park. Begins at 10 a.m., goes to 11:30, our While Supplies Last. Confirmed departments right now, Parks and Rec, Library, Police, Fire. We are waiting on responses from Cricket Wireless, Crossland Church, and Sports Clips. They usually join us, but they have not confirmed yet. Upcoming meetings, March 16th, 2026, will be Parks and Rec Advisory Committee at 5 p.m. here in the boardroom. Back to the Easter drive-thru, there will be 4 ages of golden eggs handed out, 0 to 3 years, 4 to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12. Easter Bunny will be on site. Any questions?
Not so much a question, but just want to point out we did receive a $1,000 donation to the Laverne Dog Park from our friend Dr. Isaac with Good Samaritan Animal Hospital.
Yes, sir.
And he's been doing that for a while. Is that right?
He's always good to us, at least several times a year. Yeah. We
Wonderful.
appreciate him and his support for our community.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the library. It's Donna Bebout.
Mayor, Alderwomen, good evening. On our February report, was really excited. It was a short month, but at our circulation, we had exactly 500 more checkouts in February than we did in January. So really excited that that number is beginning to go up. We will have our library board meeting at City Hall Boardroom on Monday, March 9th at 5 p.m. Wanted to give a quick February update on an event that we just thoroughly enjoyed. It was Share the Love, Take Your Child to the Library Day, and Coffee with a Cop. So on February 14th, approximately 225 adults and children gathered at the library and began the day with engaged conversation with our chief of police and many of the Laverne police officers. The day continued with families exploring the various craft and interactive stations available throughout the library. Some of our favorite stations were story time, singing and dancing, making valentines, going on a scavenger hunt, and making a tasty treat to enjoy while watching a very romantic movie that featured Charlie Brown and Lucy. So it was a great day that was had by all, and we really appreciate the partnership that we had with Laverne Police Department that day. Chief Mays did read a book during story time, and if you are on Facebook, you probably saw Chief Mays dancing a little bit. So
And I think I saw a picture with him in a pink tutu.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Can we expect more of these
It'll be an internal
collaborations in the
investigation.
future?
Pardon?
Can we expect more of these collaborations in the future?
Yes, absolutely. And we'll be having more collaborations also with the fire department. And with any other of our departments that would like to come in. It's a great time. It's good for our patrons to get to see our community, their community helpers, and especially in the library, because for many of them, that's like their home away from home. And so when we invite some of our other people in, they just think that's just magnificent. So yes, we definitely will. On the second page, you'll see this is our calendar that goes out each month. This is our March calendar. Our story times, of course, are Books and Babies every Thursday at 10 a.m., Homeschool Explorers every Monday at 10 a.m., and Little Learners Story Time every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Some of the great events that we'll be having this month, we have 2 days that we'll be doing Dungeons and Dragons again. That group has steadily stayed together and really enjoy the storyline that's going along with the Dungeons and Dragons. March 10th, we have Kids Crafternoon. This is a come and go type of craft. When you get off work, when you go home and pick up the children, come on down to the library on Tuesday. This Tuesday, it's Paint a Dino. We're getting ready for summer reading, Unearth Our Story. So we're talking a lot about dinosaurs right now. If you do not have time to stay the whole time or stay an hour or so, pick up your craft to take it and make it at home. We're going to have a parent workshop that we're really excited about. Miss Ashley, who does our Homeschool Explorers and Little Learners, is going to share her knowledge on kindergarten readiness for parents of 3- and 4-year-olds who are getting ready to enroll in pre-K and kindergarten. It will be a really good workshop. It's free of charge, and would love for our parents to come out. Of course, Miss Mary and her adult strings and things, we usually do not even need to advertise it. She's already full registration. And then the teens will be getting together again on March 26th for a teen game night. Do you have any questions?
Just want to confirm something that Chief Beasley told me now. Chief Mays was reading, I Can Too Be a Firefighter. Was that right?
That's blasphemy.
Test score has to be higher.
I cannot confirm.
Thank you so much, Ms. Donna.
You're welcome.
Now on to the water treatment plant. Mr. Dwayne.
I think he's prepared this time. Oh, he's frowning.
Good evening, Mayor, Alderwomen. Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
No.
Nein?
9.
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me here tonight. And at Infomark, we consider it a privilege to serve the citizens of Laverne. And we know we've been here a long time, and we really do appreciate being here. First thing I want to highlight is the SCADA program. The upgrade's been going on, and the distribution system is now fully up and running on the new SCADA system. That's all been completed. And I want to thank the Public Works. They did help during the transition by going out and making sure they were checking the tanks and working the pump stations and manual during that transition. So I really want to thank Michael Dietz's crew for making sure that was a smooth transition. But everything is up and running. They're now working internally on the plant side. And things with the SCADA upgrade is going really well. We did have a couple customer complaints. I know, Mary, you like to ask me all the time. Every time I don't bring them up, so I'm going to tell you about them. We had someone who had a pressure complaint, but they have a filtration system they had installed. They never changed anything. The pressure was 85 psi. We did tell them that they probably should change a filter or look at a pressure-reducing valve, but 85 psi is not low pressure. And then we had someone who had air in their line, but they had a meter changed out, so we recommend that they flush them. And if someone wants to see us, call us, get anything tested, they can call us at 615-793-6536. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Very good. A+. Yeah.
So the turbidity numbers, those look good
They are good.
compared to last year?
They're probably roughly the same. Not exactly the same, but I guarantee they're less than 0.1 NTU.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice try.
Moving on to the Finance Department. Ms. Danielle.
Good evening, Mayor, Alderwoman. I'd like to thank you for whoever moved me to the end. That's so I don't have to follow Ms. Donna. I just realized that. In your packet are the financial summary, our cash position. The general fund, we have $40 million in that fund. The water and sewer fund, we have $15.5 million. In total, we have $118,780,000. We will have a meeting this week to kick off the budget process, and we have started the penalty and interest phase of taxes if they haven't been paid.
How are things working with RAMP, the new software system?
Good. I was actually over there doing stuff now.
Wonderful. Anyone have any questions?
How, on the city taxes, do we have a lot that are delinquent, or you're just starting the analysis now?
Yes. And with that being said, the county released theirs, the comptrollers. So we're working through that also. So it's making it look a little bit worse than what it is. So you may get calls about that because it is live online.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business, second reading ordinance 2026-03, an ordinance to amend Title 7 and Title 12 of the Laverne Municipal Code to adopt the following standard codes: the 2024 International Fire Code, the 2024 International Building Code, the 2024 International Plumbing Code, the 2024 International Fuel Gas Code, the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code, the 2024 International Mechanical Code, the 2024 International Residential Code, the 2024 International Property Maintenance Code, and the 2024 International Existing Building Code, and to amend Title 13 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding property maintenance regulations. Make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderwoman Hobbs. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading ordinance 2026-04, an ordinance to amend Title 9, Chapter 9 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding mobile food vendors. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderwoman Haas. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda. Need a motion to approve or deny?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve from Alderwoman Haas, our second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. New business, Resolution 2026-09, a resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare property owned by the city to be surplus to the city's needs and directing disposal of the same. I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderwoman Hobbs. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2026-10, a resolution of the City of Laverne, Tennessee, expressing opposition to any state-imposed cap on municipal property taxes and urging the city's legislative delegation to oppose legislation that would limit local government authority to fund services for its residents. I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderwoman Haas. All in favor?
Aye.
That resolution passes. First reading ordinance 2026-05, an ordinance to amend fiscal year 2025-2026 general fund budget. I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderwoman Hobbs. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Moving on to mayor and alderman comments. Alderwoman Hobbs.
Just want to thank NES for coming out and addressing the Winter Storm Fern issues with our community. We thank you for your cooperation in that. Again, I just wanted to make a shout out to our Public Works team during their tremendous efforts in the preparation response to that storm. I also want to make note, please take advantage of the kindergarten readiness program at the library to be held March 21st at 10 a.m. with your little 3 and 4-year-olds. This is of utmost importance, and it's free for your resources, so we're happy to provide this for the community. We also want to see you out there at our Easter drive-thru on March 28th at 10 a.m. I hope most of the board will be there. This is one event that most of us do try to make it out and get to meet and greet some of fine members of our community.
Absolutely. Alderwoman Haas.
Alderwoman, did you say Haas or Hobbs?
Haas.
Oh, okay.
That's your name. We already did her.
Alderwoman Hobbs covered everything very well. David, you and your crew on the Belle of the Ball dance was awesome. I mean, everybody had a good time. Everybody was dressed up, and it was a lot of fun. And I heard that there was a Wobble Wobble video out somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
Oh, you're not? Oh, I heard that there was one out somewhere. Oh, is it hidden now? You think so? Okay. Once again, it was a lot of fun, and seeing all the kiddos and their parents out there dancing and stuff, and I look forward to the Easter drive-thru.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank our Public Works team for all the work they've been doing, not just with the ice storm, but also the response after that, working on potholes. Blair was completely shut down at one point. I believe portions of Lake were as well with tree limbs, but those were cleared up very quickly, and now they've moved on to brush collection, which I know y'all love Zone 1 right now. And I want to thank our police and fire for all their hard work through that. It's been a lot, but we all made it through it. So thank you guys. We did recently have a new business open, 7 Brew, opened up here in Laverne, in the Uptown Laverne development. So we are very excited about that. And Fifth Third Bank will be opening with it. With a soft open March 31st and ribbon cutting on the 5th of May, which is important to a few people in this room already. So I do want to thank our NES partners in this for coming and talking and dealing with our questions. I know they weren't all fun and games, but I would urge you guys not to make this a one-time event. Communication needs to be regular and frequent. With that, call this meeting adjourned.